Welcome to the Creepin' It Real Show, your one-stop shop for weird news, movie reviews, otherworldly, and paranormal shenanigans. We'll take a dive into what's going on in creepy pop culture. You can follow Creepin' It Real Show on Twitter at creepin_it. You can email us at creepinitrealshow@gmail.com. And you can also go to our website, creepinitshow.com. Welcome to Creepin' It Real. I'm one of your hosts, Yardley, live from Atlanta. And before I bring in my co-host, I just want to let everyone know you can follow Creepin' It Real on Twitter at creepin_it. You can follow us on Facebook at the Creepin' It Real Show and also on Instagram, Creepin' It Real Show. So I want to join my cohorts from the great state of Georgia. Kristi, what's going on?
You threw me a softball this time. You always usually start with Moni. I was taking a drink of an adult beverage when you asked. Sorry. Hello, all. I'm doing well. I am sitting here on this lovely, but yet surprisingly like summer, Monday evening. I'm drinking some champagne and sitting in my daughter's room because our remodel still isn't fucking done. So I have no office yet. So it's good times. But she was very nice. She lit all these candles for me and everything. So I'm like, wow, thanks.
So you can do a seance when we're done.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, no, that's meditating. Sorry. I'll get it right. I'll get it right.
Very different. Very different.
Well, I know all of our listeners recognize that voice. How's it going out in the great state of California, Moni?
Oh, dude, it is going. So first of all, I think your voice, Yardley, is particularly like smooth tonight. Like, I don't know if it's just the booze on my end talking or what, but
he has a calming voice overall, I think, for sure.
Yeah.
Like,
it might not get calm while we're talking about this Golden State Killer and the movie Hush. But you know, it's funny because we had brought up, I think, the Golden State Killer in a previous episode, didn't we? Like one of the earlier episodes, didn't we? Like bring this up as one of the famous
like
unsolved
serial killers.
Yeah,
I think so.
Yeah, and you know, there was a little bit of news on that today. But Kristi, since you dropped a couple of actually pretty good links on the Golden State Killer, you want to kind of lead us off on this?
well, I'll share it because Moni put one in and I put one in. So my fascination with the Golden State Killer isn't just from my fucked up, I love horror and crime, but I also have a weird obsession with Patton Oswalt. And if anybody who knows anything about the Golden State State, I keep wanting to say skate, so apologize. Golden Skate, y'all.
Golden State, right through your head.
Shoot the duck, y'all. Shoot the duck. Anyway, Moni wouldn't even know what that meant, but maybe Yardley does. Anyway, skate, shoot the duck. Okay, moving on. Patton Oswalt was married to Michelle McNamara, who literally died while in the middle of writing a book trying to figure out who the Golden State Killer was. And I had chills and tears. When they busted him, they literally used parts of her book as a way to, crack the case. And I haven't read the whole book. I actually started it and put it down because I haven't been reading lately, but it's a really good book. I just have not had time to read. It was on my list for a while and then bought it and then had it sitting there and then picked it back up and started reading it. It got really good, but vacation was over and I just haven't had time to finish it. And here we are. I mean, literally, what she wrote about describes him perfectly. She thought he was a cop. She thought he was not dead. She had this feeling that he was alive and living not far from the crime scene. And then she passed in her sleep from an unknown heart condition. And here we are 2 years later, almost to the day, finding out that her forecast was eerily correct. So that was my big thing about this. It was just I just can't even imagine what her child and what Patton feels seeing that literally her life's work coming to fruition years after her death. But I will let Moni talk a little bit more into detail about the actual golden state.
That guy.
The dude that killed people.
Well, I had a staff member come running in. He's like, I know you're into the creepy stuff. Did you see the news? I'm like, what are you talking about? He's like, they caught the Night Stalker. And I was like, Night Stalker's Richard Ramirez. They caught him a long time ago. He's like, no, the original Night Stalker. So I'm like Googling this. Dude, this guy needed to be caught. And I don't care how old the crimes are. Like, so the first story that I read, like, I knew about him, and then I kind of forget things. And so to refresh myself on who the hell this guy was, besides the Michelle McNamara, angle on it, was this fucking guy, like, used to break into the bedrooms of, like, moms. So the one story, it messed me up. The first story that I ended up reading was a firsthand account of this woman who woke up and had her 3-year-old in her bed. Her husband had just left for work, and here's this rapist/murderer standing over her. And of course, with the kid involved, he binds them both up and rapes her. It's like she's gonna do anything that he wants because the kid's also there. Mm-hmm. And that just, I literally was coming off a morning where I had just woke up in my bed with a 5-year-old in it, and my husband had just left for work, and I was like, I couldn't even think about it for the rest of the day. It just, like, shut me down emotionally. So I'm really happy that Michelle and, like, Patton Oswalt, like, the people that are living that loved her got to see this happen. I'm sure if people go somewhere when they die that she's looking down on all this, but damn, I'm glad this guy was caught. And
well, he's in your hood too. That's the great. Yeah, he's not far from you, so that's
not
kinda,
too far.
No,
and
a little bit of a trek, but still, it's like
12
bizarre.
murders and 45 rapes that they know of. That's insane. Like,
well, he was also, isn't he now thought to be the other, the East Side or the East something killer?
He did this in New York or something, I think. Like, he's a pretty prolific criminal.
He's been busy.
Yeah. Fuck this guy. Burn in hell, dude.
They're also investigating him possibly being a murderer in Australia because he was in the Navy and there was a string of murders
for a while. And then wherever he went, crime followed. So there you go.
Yeah. So what I guess better late than never, but wow. What a... And he was such a just little Susie homemaker. Just barbecuing and lived with his daughter and his granddaughter. And then here we are picking him up for 15 murders, 50 rapes that we know of. And then with more to continue. And he's just hanging out, not 11 minutes or 15 minutes from the crimes. That's just freaking crazy.
Yeah, well, I'm pretty sure with the technology that's available, they'll be able to probably link him to a lot of those other crimes. But the thing that I found that was the most interesting was the way in which they caught him. So I'm just going to read a quick excerpt from this BBC article that Kristi had actually provided for us in the show notes. And actually, I'm going to post this on the Facebook page. So by the time people listen to the podcast, they'll be able to read more in depth of a lot of the crazy stuff that this guy is accused of. But one part of the article says, according to the Sacramento Bee, the site is a place where people basically what is it called? The GE, it's like a match site, the hereditary.com.
It's Ancestry, ancestry.com. Mm-hmm.
And the site is a place for people to find long-lost relatives and has a database of 800,000 DNA profiles. Sacramento District Attorney Chief Deputy Steve Gripey confirmed that a family member of D'Angelo's had used the service, and they were able to isolate him as a suspect and collect discarded DNA on 2 occasions, and they finally found a match. So that was a needle in a haystack, but I think that we can be sure that people are going to be doing this a lot more, trying, because like a lot of those ancestry sites, they sell your information too.
Hell yeah. and
well,
you know what?
23andMe, they keep your stuff so that they can retest it or whatever. So they've got your sample like for who knows how long. They probably make like a clone of you, and you won't even know it, dude.
Are you like run into him at a mall? You're like, oh, it's me.
That's more than a doppelganger. That's me.
I'm all for, if I've got some crazy asshole in my distant family or remote, whatever, immediate, whatever family, I don't care if they use my DNA to find him. Fuck yeah. I'd turn him in if I knew he was. If he was sitting in my kitchen getting ready to barbecue, because he said something like, there's something in the oven, or when they arrested him, he's like, I've got like a roast in the oven or something, like, and they had to go and turn the oven off. Like, he was making dinner for his family. I mean, just
shoved his ass
living the life. No shit. Like, by all means, use my DNA and find any crazy ass people, because I'm sure they're there in my family.
Well, there was a news report today where they were talking to people who lived, in that area. And, when we see these images of him on TV, he's, talking really low and looking really frail in his wheelchair. There were actually people who lived around where he was that was saying just a few days earlier, he was like riding a motorcycle up and down the neighborhood and things like that. So I think he's totally putting on a front. Sure. But his advanced age in itself is going to be a death sentence if he ends up going to jail, which is pretty much assured.
They said he's talking, but also they said one of his neighbors is like, oh, he was just a misunderstood nice guy. But everybody else is like, he was the biggest dick, like, for sure. So, I mean, he would yell at people, and, I mean, basically the get off my lawn dude. So no, he won't be missed in the neighborhood, that's for sure.
Well, he needs to get off our lawns. We're going to talk about Hush. We're going to talk about the movie Hush today. It's actually a flick that I had picked out for us to review. Now, none of us had seen this movie prior to this, right? Or Kristi, you saw it?
I saw it months ago with my son, and we really enjoyed it. I was happy you picked it out, because I literally just finished it. I went back. I purposely waited till the right before to watch it again so that I could keep some nuances of the movie that I'd kind of forgotten months ago. But
that is crazy. How in the hell do I not know if y'all have seen these, saw this movie? I was under the impression that maybe it's something, but I have to keep in mind that between Moni and yourself, that a lot of stuff probably slips through the crack. But I have been noticing a lot of cool, horror movies that are coming out now. It's actually, my interest has grown in horror because of YouTube. But I decided to give it a chance. But Rotten Tomatoes, that score will fool you, because it's 94% fresh, but it's only 15 reviews, and IMDb gave it a 6.6 out of 10.
IMDb can suck it.
I actually think, we can just say this now, I thought the score was pretty on. I was not, I enjoyed the movie. I thought the girl in it.
IMDb's score is out of 10, though. 6.6 out of 10. I feel like it deserves better than that.
Yeah, I wouldn't give it 97, but I wouldn't give it a 6 point either. So
that's why I say IMDb and your armchair, movie fanatics can suck it.
Yeah, I think you gotta take Rotten Tomatoes and IMDb and crush them together and figure out some fucked up mutated score in between them to get an accurate reading of what you're really going to watch.
If I'm not mistaken, though, I think IMDb, with Rotten Tomatoes, it's just aggregation. So it's just based off of, the percentage of people's reviews and if they gave it fresh or rotten. So that's not, that's just, this is from the critics, but they also have, the audience score, which will be, to the side, which is, the fans of the movie or whatever. I'm not sure how IMDb does their thing, but I think that fans are the ones who give the stars as well. So, but you're right. I mean, when you're just relying on fan votes alone, I mean, it just depends. Most people aren't the type of people who will be on IMDb, saying voting on it. So there's a certain amount of people who might gravitate towards being on those websites or maybe into movies and TVs a lot more than others. But this movie, it was directed by Mike Flanagan, and the stars are Katie Siegel. She plays the character Maddie Young. John Gallagher Jr. as Man, Michael Trucco as John Stanley, and Samantha Sloyan as Sarah Green. There's also another character played by Emily Graves called Max, but for the most part, as we do this review, we're pretty much going to be just focusing primarily on Maddie and the killer.
So Kate, who's Maddie, I'm sorry, real quick. Kate Siegel, who plays Maddie, the main character who's deaf, she is like, I would label her a scream queen. She's her little career is horror. I mean, when you look at her, and the crazy part is when you realize who she's played before, this part, she looks nothing like the parts she's played in the past, like Insidious. Oh my gosh, so many different movies.
Lights Out. Yeah.
Haunting of Hill House. Yeah, Lights Out. Oculus, which I liked that movie. I mean, The Collector, so many movies.
She's married to the director, Mike Flanagan, the director.
Oh, she is?
They're married.
Making
I'll
sense.
tell you what else, Yardley, you put on here that he's doing the adaptation, another one, of Haunting of Hill House, which hopefully will be good. But I noticed he's also doing the upcoming Shining sequel, Dr. Sleep.
Okay.
Oh.
That, which the project is still TBA as far as a date, but that was something that we've talked about a couple times on here, is being excited about that Stephen King adaptation. So that should be fun as well.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, let's talk a little bit about the heroine. This is kind of a synopsis, but this also gives us an idea of what Maddie Young is like. So primarily, she's a deaf author. She lives in an isolated house in the woods. And we find out that she temporarily lost her ability to hear and speak after a bout of bacterial meningitis at the age of 13, and lost both permanently after a corrective surgery gone wrong. So her life has been a shit show from a very young age.
Not to mention a shitty ex-boyfriend coming into play in this too, trying to call her back and all that.
That's true. So I mean, for the most part, upon learning this at the beginning of the movie, I was pretty much in, on that character. So as we start off the movie, one day, Sarah, who is Maddie's best friend, she comes by to return a copy of her book, and Maddie is making a meal in preparation for her to visit. And they're outside talking, and of course, the meal that she's cooking starts burning, and then this super alarm goes off. And it's really loud. It vibrates. It's really over the top. And, Sarah pretty much makes note of how loud it is. And she's talking to Maddie about it. And Maddie explains that the reason why the alarm is loud and vibrates is to help wake up, a deaf person. The vibrations will give her an opportunity to hopefully wake up out of her sleep. So that's really the reason for this really over the top alarm. Now, when you saw this for the first time, did you think that alarm would come to play later on in the movie? Because I didn't.
No, I should have. Like, why would they make a big deal about it? But I was along for the ride. This movie was really well set up. The setting is really gorgeous. That house is like a dream house up until it becomes a fucking nightmare house. But yeah, I'm just along for this ride going like, oh, this is just setting up like what her life is like because she's deaf, how it's different than most other people's. But yeah, I did not see that coming.
Okay. Well, what about you, Kristi? Did you see that coming back later on in the movie?
No, I think what I originally thought was the alarm coming back into play when I first watched it is, I think later on we'll probably talk about this, but she throws like a flashlight or something into the forest to catch his attention.
Oh, his attention, yeah.
And I thought it was the alarm. But it wasn't. It was. So I was like, oh, okay. But I thought at the time it was the alarm. So I was like, well, the alarm clearly was a fail. But then, yeah. So no, I did not think it was coming back. And then I thought that was what she was doing with it. So I was way off. So yeah, moving on.
Oh, okay. And well, after having that discussion, Sarah leaves, goes to get cleaned up, and she returns later on that night to visit Maddie. And the killer that we're going to see for the rest of the movie shows up and chases Sarah to Maddie's house. He shoots her with a crossbow. And Sarah actually runs up to I guess it's like the back door. It's like facing the kitchen. She runs up and she's kind of pounding on the door while Maddie is in the kitchen. And of course, Maddie's deaf and she doesn't notice her beating on the door. So as Sarah keeps on banging on the door in despair, the killer ends up stabbing her to death right there at the door. I'm just going to ask y'all. Now, you're running away from this killer that shot you with a crossbow. You're terrified, and you're running towards the house. Your friend is in there, but I mean, Sarah didn't make any attempt to like kick the door in or to do anything like somebody who's about to die.
Break the window, bitch.
Do either of you think you would have been able to do something to get Maddie's attention in that kitchen?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
I mean, really though. But
it didn't even have to be that door. It could have been any window. You could have kicked something in. I mean, it's a window. And as much as I liked this movie, I mean, the whole a window, I guess I just can't kill you now thing kind of bugged me.
Oh,
at
he
times.
said so. The guy said so though. He said, "I can come in anytime I want, but I'm going to make you wish you were dead." Sorry, that's further on, but he made it clear that like I could do this, but right now I'm having fun.
And thanks, bitch, for introducing the killer to my house.
Like for being your friend.
He was clearly just hanging out over there and killing her, and then she introduces him to her house by running over, and then he's like, "Oh, look, it's a deaf lady, yay!" So.
Was anyone reminded of Scream when she's like right outside the window and just getting like killed up against the glass, just like when they're in the backyard getting killed?
Yeah, because he's like stabbing her over and over again.
It's pretty sexual at a certain point. He's like behind her, just like,
he's like
stab,
stab, and just a few more stabbies. Yeah.
Yeah. All you see is his face and her body kind of being like moved by the knife. It's like, whoa.
Well, the killer actually learns that Maddie's deaf because of that whole situation with the door and Maddie not responding, Normally people's intuition might kick in, where you just feel like something is there. You feel like somebody's watching you.
Watching you, maybe?
Yeah, she has zero of that. So the killer sneaks into the house, ends up stealing Maddie's phone. He takes a picture of her and sends it to her to make her aware of his presence, causing Maddie to lock herself inside the house. The killer cuts the power and then sabotages her car. That was a part that I thought that was pretty cool and would have been pretty terrifying.
I peed a little. It was creepy.
It was intense.
That was.
She's like looking at the photos of herself and realizing how close she was. I was like, nope.
From her own phone. Yeah. She's like, what?
But isn't it kind of interesting? You got a young lady like her. She's living out, in the woods, trying to somewhere where she can gather her thoughts to write her book. She's by herself. I know she has like a, someone that she was seeing or whatever, her boyfriend or ex-boyfriend or whatever. But, come on, you've got to have a shotgun. You got to have something.
I was getting ready to say that. I'm not big on guns, but I probably want a gun living out there.
Or something.
Because if you're relying on your husband, your boyfriend or a husband for that matter, if you're relying on them to protect you, all of that doesn't matter if they don't actually live with you. So I just thought that was kind of odd. Now, I did not notice anywhere in the movie, did they say what state it was in? I know it wasn't relevant to the movie, but did they have a mention of where it was?
Man, I looked it up because it was so pretty. Let me just see if I can find out, because it was somewhere like, I want to say like Georgia, like Georgia, Jesus. Oh, filming location. Sorry, it was Alabama.
Well, then she damn sure doesn't have an excuse not to have a shot. Your granddaddy raised you better than that.
You have idiot hunters in your woods,
And then I'm sorry to jump a little bit, but the whole I don't have internet service. Like, really, you don't have any secondary services or anything? Like, your job. I mean, your job.
how was that internet service when we was riding through Alabama, Kristi?
That's
so I
true.
totally believe
That's true.
Internet
That's true. It did suck. It did suck.
She's in the sticks,
You're
like,
right.
because she wants the isolation. She got the
was
goddamn
like-
isolation,
I
man.
know that. Yeah, because every time I ride through motherfucking Alabama, the internet sucks. But anyway,
What is that? What up with you, Alabama?
so I give that a pass. But
Roll
yeah,
Tide
well-
internet into your freaking state,
Yeah.
yo. Anyway,
Um,
let's move on. Sorry.
Calling
I'm just
that.
frustrated because my problem with this is I'm so privileged that when he cut the internet, I was like, oh, but she can still send an email. And I thought that for a good 10, 15 minutes into the movie.
Nope.
And then I'm like, you know what? I'm stupid. You can't. Hello, that's how privileged I am on wireless that I can't even remember what I get and don't get without wireless or internet services.
Now he
So
takes your
just-
router and your phone.
Yeah, I'm just, how sad are we that we are that helpless without our internet? But anyway,
Might as
moving
well
on.
just die. That was the end of the movie right there. She
Yeah.
decided it was time to die.
And
so after the Alabama internet goes down,
Bye.
the killer ends up coming to the door, and Maddie writes on the glass-paneled front door at this point, "Won't tell, didn't see face, boyfriend coming home with her lipstick." Now the killer reacts to that by taking off his mask, basically saying that she's seen his face, and he taunts her a little bit by propping Sarah's dead body against the against the window.
Like a puppet.
hell no.
Yeah.
Oh, this creepiest puppet.
Yeah, that was pretty
That
messed
was
up. So,
fucked up, dude. He's like, hello.
so he basically
she was waving with all her bloodiness and like, oh, god dang it, dude. You just really want to fuck with her. Like, seriously. Ugh.
that was pretty messed up. And at that
Yeah.
point, I think he plops her down, and Maddie tries to distract him with her car alarm so she can get Sarah's phone from her body. She fails to, but she successfully stabs the killer's arm with a hammer claw. Maddie tries to escape, on the roof. She ends up getting shot in the leg with a crossbow bolt. She manages to kick the killer and grab the crossbow and load it with the arrow that had shot her in the leg. Now, this is something that I kind of wanted to ask both of you. That there was a moment, and I only watched the movie once, but there was a moment where he was on the other side of that glass, and she had the crossbow, and she was fairly, I don't think that she would have missed, if she would have shot him. At that point, she was really shook. But would y'all have taken the chance, since you were kind of in proximity and there was a barrier between you? Would y'all have taken a shot and took a chance?
But here's the thing. I don't think, because like for a big part of that, she's struggling to load it.
Yeah.
Like she has
Yeah,
it,
yeah.
but she doesn't know how to load it. So remember, while he's spying on her, struggling and crying, trying to load it, and he's going, I know, it's hard, isn't it hard? Like, welcome to my world. Like, he's being real creepy and weird while he's watching her through the window because she's crying and she's pulling on it and she can't load it. So I don't know if she could. I would have taken a fucking hammer and hammered through the glass and hammered his head or something. Like, I would have figured shit out. But I think and correct me if I'm wrong, but you really see a change in her from the point where he's knocking on the window with her friend dead. Before that, she was kind of just this victim and not really fighting back. And then that happened, and there was like this huge change, and she was like real, like, all right, I gotta, like, he's not fucking around. He's gonna kill me. And she really got serious about it. And I thought on that, they did kind of cover their bases pretty well, because they show her, like, I can't load. She didn't have the strength to load it for a while, I guess. Isn't that how it went? Fuck, I don't remember.
Yeah, she couldn't do it for a while. I don't know. Like, yeah, there was a change in her character where she was kind of the victim or the pacifist to, like, the only way. Well, you see her going through that thought process. They give the internal monologue, like what she's thinking, and she is. Remember also, she's a mystery writer who writes like serial killers coming in or whatever else. And so she's running through the scenarios in her head about like, how is she going to get away? And at a certain point, she realizes, you know, it was kill or be killed. She doesn't get to fuck around anymore. And yeah, I'd forget my point because I'm like really drunk. So
boy, really? Yay for you! I'm so excited.
I haven't had a drink real quick like in 2 weeks as I've been trying to like clean, eat, and blah blah. And then like right before we started recording, my kids were running around screaming, and it was already bad enough. But then my littlest one just like squats in the middle of the floor right out of the bath, and we're like, "What you doing?" Taking a shit.
Oh. So your baby took a crap in the floor?
She took a crap right in the middle of my bedroom like a dog, and stopped yelling after that because she felt better.
And then you poured yourself a stiff one. I get it.
Stiff or two. Yeah, exactly.
My daughter did that. My daughter
as I will
did
cause
that.
us to do.
My daughter did that in her crib, her pack and play at 2 years old. Took a giant shit in it.
Oh, they will like finger paint with it too.
Yeah.
Yardley, is this good birth control?
Yeah.
I mean, on behalf of all the listeners, what the fuck is going on right
Kids
now?
are gross.
We're
let me
going
just
like
tell you.
really off the rails.
Anyway, that's why we are
Maybe it
drunk.
would have saved this girl if she had just acted batshit crazy and just come out of the house like covered in her feces, like, "Come at me now, motherfucker! You're not gonna want to get up close enough to stab me." And he'd be like, "You crazy," and he would leave. There you go.
My daughter's looking at me like she's gonna kill me in my sleep now because I ratted her out about crapping in her crib when she was 2.
Oh, she's a teenager.
Moving on. Anywho, so yeah, so that's what we think about the killer. I'm sorry we just went off on a whole tangent, but
it's all good. It's all good. I'm gonna pull it back in. Well, you know,
that's your job.
So,
Good luck with that.
Maddie is all, I mean, she's all fucked up at this point, but it turns out that what she had ended up writing on the wall saying her boyfriend was coming home, turns out it was true because John actually does show up. Now, when he shows up, you know, it's all quiet, nothing's on, and, you know, no lights are on and things like that. And he's noticing that something just isn't right. So all of a sudden, the killer, pretending to be a cop, runs around with his flashlight. And he fakes a call for backup with John's own phone, all while shining this light in his face. Yeah. And essentially, you know, after a while, John is kind of getting suspicious, but somehow, like, I think it was some earrings or like a locket fell out of his pocket. And, you know, John notices it. So I'm pretty sure that he knows it's something of hers. So the killer lures John off the porch, and he's got a rock in his hand to hit him in the back. And just when John is walking off, Maddie bangs on the door to warn John, but it ends up distracting him. And then when John looks back, the killer stabs him in the neck. And he actually didn't, I guess he didn't, he ended up using the rock later. But he stabs John in the neck, which was really fucked up. And I can understand in this particular scenario, I know that she was meaning well, trying to warn him. But the tragic thing was it ended up distracting him and it ended up getting him killed. But John, he's a brawler.
He's a big guy.
Yeah, he was way stronger than the killer. So even though he was stabbed in the neck and bleeding out, he managed to get a hold of him and put him in a sleeper, like a chokehold. And it almost kills the killer, but he ends up losing too much blood and bleeds out. And that brings it back to the rock that I mentioned earlier. He ends up crushing John's head in it. He actually kept smashing it for a while. It was pretty brutal. And after that moment, we go back to Maddie, and then there's this long montage of everything that had happened up to that point. And Maddie finally comes to the realization that she might have to actually kill the killer. And I'm like, oh, really? It took you all that time, you know, for it to come that. But the thing that made my eyes fucking roll was Maddie's cat, after the killer kills John, walks up to the killer. And of course, the killer starts talking to the cat and realizes it's her cat by looking at the tag. So I guess he figures to put Maddie in some more pain, he's going to kill the cat. And apparently, the cat was the last straw from Maddie. So she comes outside, shoots the killer with the crossbow.
Hold on. I see your notes, and I got to just say one thing really quick. Right. John is not Maddie's boyfriend. John is Sarah's boyfriend.
Yeah.
Looking for Sarah. That's so right. Yeah, her cat is more precious to her than some bitch's strange or boyfriend or whatever.
Oh,
but yes.
Listen. I don't fuck that. Humans over cats, man. You gotta save him, dude. Like, I just don't even.
I get it.
I know
get
some
it.
people feel highly about their animals, but I'm gonna take a shot to save that dude because I mean, I just can't. Don't even
here's my question. Here's my question.
I'll be like, fuck that cat. I'm going to shoot that killer, get him off that dude's ass.
When John had him in a chokehold, wouldn't that have been a great opportunity for her to run up and kill him?
Yes, exactly. Help.
A little help here, man.
Well, the guy was saying run.
That cat ain't going to help your ass.
No, she's got him in a chokehold. Run up there and kill him. Stab or shoot or kick or bash or something.
Dude, and can we say also that it took John it was really suspenseful. I felt like it took him 5 fucking minutes to figure out that like something was wrong.
Yeah.
I was like, it's a good thing you're hot because you are dumb. Like, seriously.
Look, all I'm thinking about is you getting killed and that cat looking at you like, you better feed me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Otherwise, I eat your dead body. Either way.
But poor John. I mean, y'all are right. She could have definitely used that opportunity because even if selfishly she didn't even give a shit about John, you have to use John as a tool before he bleeds out to help you to kill this guy. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I thought that was pretty shell. That was one of the things that kind of irked me. But we've seen this before. Like it's just it's one of those things. But the
movie would be really short if we did that.
Yeah, and and she took some initiative, and I think that's all that we really wanted at that point. Because from early on in the movie, what I thought was going to happen was this was going to kind of turn into a Home Alone situation where it's in her house, and then she like turns the table on him. Like that's what I wanted to happen. It's not what happened, but I really did like her as a character, so I thought that it would have been cool that she could have kind of used the house. But you always forget, whenever I think about that, I'm like, yeah, but she's deaf, and that makes it so much harder, to be able to navigate that situation, as far as like, one of those Home Alone type things. But I guess up to that point, I know that both of you kind of rate this movie kind of high, but at this point in the movie, I mean, did you feel like, were you enjoying it more, or was it kind of getting shaky for you in the third act?
I still enjoyed it a lot. It wasn't as creepy anymore, but it felt like the right time for business to be accomplished, the business of killing this guy.
Yeah, I feel the same way. I'm like, all right, you've been the victim long enough. It's time for you to get your shit together, which happened, and kill the dude. And I thought just the concept, not just that, but they really covered the whole deaf thing. They covered their bases really well. I thought it was, I was buying it for sure. I mean, when I think back now, when I look at your writing, and I'm like, yeah, she could have ran out there when he was choking the kid or the guy, the killer, whatever. Sure. And when I was watching the movie, I wasn't feeling it. I didn't think that way at all. I was invested.
Yeah, I have to agree. I was pretty much the same way. I rolled my eyes at that whole scenario. But at that point, I was like, come on, Maddie, you got to snap out of it. Your life's at stake. At this point, that you should have realized this earlier on in the movie when he was playing your friend like a puppet, that, hey, you might have to kill this guy. But after she runs out, she takes the shot, and the guy gets, he takes one. So Maddie decides to dash back in the house. And as she's going in the house, she goes through this, like a screen door. She tries to close it. The killer smashes her hand in it, and then doesn't like stomp on it.
That was brutal. Yeah. Yes,
it was messed up because it had her fingers all mangled.
That was fucked up.
That was the thing that got me the most in the whole movie. Looking at her,
because she had it like that the rest of the movie, where it's just like one finger looked like it was never gonna finger again. It was just done.
Gosh, it was
so
just
gross.
Yeah, to me that was the shot. And as Maddie's like lying on the ground writhing in pain from her hand being totally obliterated.
Yeah.
The killer, of course, threatens to enter the house. But at this point, Maddie's fed up. She writes in her own blood this time, right? Do it, coward.
Yeah.
And she runs to her computer. She writes a description of the man and tells her family that she loves him, all while the killer tries to unsuccessfully smash that particular glass on that particular side of the house. So the killer gets owned by the door, and then he ends up going in through the skylight. Yeah. He ends up going in through the skylight. He smashes it unbeknownst to Maddie, who has locked herself like it was in a bathroom, right? With her back to the door. Yeah. So she was in the bathroom with her back to the door, but a little bit away from it. The killer ends up getting into the bathroom, getting right behind her. And just as he's about to stab her from behind, he breathes really hard and she feels it on the back of her neck. And then she dodges his attack, spins around and stabs him in the leg. She got a good lick in. Yeah. She probably should have kept stabbing, but she got a good lick in.
Yeah, why do they do that? God damn it. Keep stabbing.
Bitch. Have you ever seen anything in your life?
Stabbing requires like quadruple, like times 30 tap. Exactly. Like keep tapping until it's just a big pile of mush.
You have to use all of the rage of all of the people that this guy's killed this night, and you just have to keep stabbing. But of course, she's really shook. Her other hand's messed up. She stabs him. She runs to the kitchen. And then when the killer comes in, at this point, he's pretty, broken up because he took his own licks, by the time the third act comes around. So he's like limping, into the kitchen. He's all about him, about to kill her ass. And then she sprays him in the eyes with some insecticide, and it totally
so satisfying.
Well,
I was like,
yes. I had that insecticide because this insecticide immediately started like burning his like
hell eyes. Yeah, it does.
What insecticide is that?
It was a wasp spray, and let me just tell you, as a person that has a boat and we have it in a dry dock, and wasps frequently love to hang out in our boat. Like it, for some reason, I know this sounds crazy, but they do. And we have to buy insecticide when we take our car and put it up, hook it up to the trailer. We have to have insecticide to spray inside the trailer hitch because for some reason, wasps love that little enclave of metal. And so many times have we killed, those things and those insecticides have like a shooting radius that is magical, and they will fuck shit up. Like when she opened the cabinet doors and she was pulling out all the bottles looking for something else. I think it was a hammer, and the insecticide bottle rolled out. I was like, "Oh, bitch, get the insecticide!" Like I knew, because that stuff does not mess around. I mean, it has a radius that for so you don't have to get close to a nest. And so, hell yeah, I would have started with that shit.
I think the actual label on it says "will fuck shit up." I think
yeah. To fuck shit up is the name of the insecticide. But yes, I was so proud of her when she grabbed that, because that was the first thing I saw, and I was like, "Oh, get the insecticide, get the wasp spray." So yeah, moving on.
Yeah, well, that was, that was definitely awesome. But the reason why I was like, it was such an intense thing. In Game of Thrones, they have this thing. It's called a glorious death. And if I had that insect spray that totally like burned away like wasps and bugs, they would all have glorious death. So I thought that was pretty cool. But the killer has a little something left in him. He ends up falling on top of Maggie, and he's choking her life away. She's about to be unconscious, and then she, in pure Equalizer fashion, she grabs this corkscrew and she stabs him in the neck with it, and of course it ruptures an artery, and he ends up dying. Now at this point, Maddie is in really bad shape. She's almost choked out. She's bleeding from her leg, her hands messed up, and she manages to limp outside, lie on the front. Her cat walks up to her, I guess in appreciation of saving its life. She manages to dial 911.
No. That ain't what that cat was doing.
Bitch,
you had not fed me yet.
Exactly. And then, we see the police siren. So we know that she's okay. But, all in all, I thought that the movie was pretty good. I personally thought that the IMDb rating was probably fair. Except I might give it a 7. I might give it a 7, and I just based that off of the job that Siegel did. I thought that she did a good job as a Kate Siegel, who played Maddie. I thought she just did a good job with the character. I liked the character, and I kind of felt for the character going on, but I also felt like I think that her instincts as an individual, it would have been cool if they would have played it where she would have just really came to the realization and been angry enough at the things that she saw. And granted, I know that fear can make people forget a lot of shit. You know what I'm saying? So I don't really want to, downplay, her fear coming into play of her not necessarily having the courage to want to kill this guy. But I do think that if someone's trying to kill you and they're at your home, I do think that the defense mechanism probably should have spread up in her.
I'll agree with you on that. I say that she did an amazing job. She's not actually deaf, and so she clearly took sign language lessons and did, I think, a lot of... when we think about this is a Netflix movie. This isn't a movie theater released movie. And she did amazing. I agree. I thought she did great. I would give it a 7 for sure.
What about you, Moni?
I would give it a 7.5 or an 8. Honestly, I think I almost enjoyed it the second time better. Just how they put everything into place to kind of come into play later, and got to really kind of sit back and enjoy all the elements and the suspense involved. And like you said, it's a Netflix movie. It's an indie, and I think it was unexpectedly well done. And I was happy to have an opportunity to watch it a second time.
Yeah, and I'll probably check it out for a second time and really kind of, take my time and try to notice some things that I might not have on the first view. I think also, for me, I think her fear would have been backed up more if John, who was her best friend's boyfriend, if he was the killer, I would have bought a lot more. But the actual killer, he just looked like a frat dude. I believe if she really just wound up and punched that guy in his face really hard, she could have probably have stunned him. He wasn't really even the killer acknowledged, when John came up, man, I would never beat that guy. You know what I mean? So he was like he wasn't like just some brute that I think that she would have probably have been as terrified of as was played in the movie. But then again, you watch this guy kill a couple of your friends, and, I guess, the fear takes over. But I thought that it was solid. I'll definitely at some point watch the movie again, and I'll probably go more along the lines of a 6.5, and maybe if I have a nice buzz, it might move it up to 7. So all in all, though, we all give this a thumbs up for the most part.
Hell yeah.
I really like this movie. I liked it even better the second time. So for sure.
What do y'all think about, you mentioned, because Netflix, I can totally see in the next 5 years or 10 years, Netflix is going to be so fucking huge. It's probably going to be pretty ridiculous. You know what I mean?
Yep.
You already, you know what I mean? So I think that they're doing a lot of good things, and the more people who, start watching, the more content that they'll be able to produce, because that's like with Netflix and also with Hulu. I think that these providers are starting to kind of, lay a path to, original content. And surprisingly enough, it's not like big budget movie content, but it's not network TV budgeted either. They have enough money and people, and actually you've got bona fide movie stars who actually are being in these Netflix features. You remember a long time ago, you would have never thought that there would be a day that you would have so many big names or movie stars who want to be in comic book movies. And now everybody's like trying to get into like these comic book movies that are popular. And the same thing is happening with a lot of these Netflix and Hulu original series. So hopefully as time goes on, they'll keep providing good content, that we can talk about it. And, I guess this would probably be a good time to kind of segue into what's going on next week.
I have a rare treat for you guys.
I like treats.
Yes. I've never seen this movie. First of all, let's just put that out there. I want us to watch The Entity from 1982.
What?
And yes. Have you seen it, Moni?
No.
Have you seen it, Yardley?
I'm actually looking at it now, and it looks familiar. I'm pretty sure it's actually, I got to watch this trailer, but when I clicked on the IMDb link, you know how they have the screenshots before you hit the trailer? Yeah. I totally recognize this guy, so I'm pretty sure. I think I have.
He's been in a lot of movies. He's dead now. But here's why I want to watch this. I know I tell y'all a million times I've listened to all these podcasts. Several times in podcasts, I have heard people referencing this movie, and I have never seen it. Well, first of all, I watched Exorcist when I was 6 years old, so it's not like I shouldn't have seen this movie. I should have seen this movie, but I didn't. I've never heard of it. And so I'm like, what the hell are they talking about? And then fucking Barbara Hershey's in it, who I love. And so I think we need to pull up an old school film, and I think we need to review it and see what happens. There's some crazy shit, apparently, that happens in this movie, and I'm ready for us to hit the next level.
Well,
the only reason why I'm doing this is because I thought my turn was going to hit a big milestone on our downloads, and it's just not happening yet. It's probably the next one. So whoever's next, sorry, Moni, we're going to hijack that week, and you're going to go to the next week because we're going to do a big 10,000 download extravaganza. And so I would just like to discuss this movie along with ghosts, apparitions in general. So sorry, Yardley, what was it you were going to say?
I was going to say, just for the listeners, in general, The Entity is supposedly based on a true story. Mm-hmm. It's basically about a woman who's tormented and sexually molested by an invisible demon. So
that happens every day.
Yeah, exactly. And, like the Invisibang.
I hate it when that happens.
I've heard rumors about how, I don't know if this is the overall effective means, but they do some crazy shit trying to get rid of it. And so I'm really stoked. And by the way, if we're talking about we're talking about Netflix, but this is not really Netflix. But if anybody else is watching Westworld, please reach out to me because I have nobody to talk to. I am literally a Westworld alone by myself. I got nobody. I'm just here on my own watching it and freaking out, and I got nobody to talk to.
I haven't watched either episode yet. I mean, I have them available to watch. I have to get caught up because I was going to watch it over the weekend, but it was so nice down here that I was like just all about trying to be outside doing something, so I didn't really get an opportunity to watch the first 2 episodes, I believe.
Mm-hmm. It's so good. And the first episode from the second season, I was losing my shit. So
I don't really remember. Here's the thing, though. Like, I know that I enjoyed the first season of Westworld. I remember I had to watch. I think I ended up like watching the first few episodes a few times so I could kind of, because there at some points I was like, maybe I need to rewatch this, or maybe I need to pay close attention to what they're saying. So I know that I enjoyed the first season, but it's like I don't remember a lot from it. I remember certain bullet points of progression through the season, but there's a lot of stuff that happened in between as far as like character development things that I was kind of foggy on. So I'm pretty sure that I'm not going to go back and rewatch it. I think I'm going to dive in. But the one thing that I want to know from you, Kristi, and I don't think that this is really a spoiler, but Does this take place? Is there like a time jump a little bit or no?
You mean from the first season to the second season?
Well, from the where we ended at the last one.
No.
Is it picking up right from there?
Literally right from there.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah.
Then I'm with it. All right.
Yeah. It's good.
All
It's
right.
good
Well, Moni, do you have anything else to add before we wrap this thing up?
Nope. I think I'm good.
Are you going to bitch about The Entity, Moni?
No. I think
Okay.
I might have seen it. I feel like it's familiar too. But I will leave you with this parting shot that it came out before I was even born.
Well, I'll leave you with this parting shot. It's fucking 2 hours and 5 minutes. That's pretty long.
Oh.
It's a pretty long
Nice.
movie, but
I'm already asleep just thinking about it.
yeah. Let's hope. Well, I think that this is a movie that you probably want to have a nice buzz for. I mean, it's in the 80s. If anything, I'll laugh my way through it. So
First of all,
look forward to watching it.
I downloaded it and then I started watching it for like 10 seconds to make sure it was a good copy. And the music alone is so Nightmare on Elm Street. I was dying. I was like, oh yes, this is going to be
Nightmare came out in
fantastic.
83, so really Nightmare on Elm Street's music is So the Entity.
Totally.
And and you said, and you were born what year, Moni? What did you just say?
83.
What?
83.
Why are you such a baby?
I know, right?
What year are you born, Yardley?
In the 70s. I'll leave it at that.
Me too.
I have to say, and
Me
you don't
too.
have to say. I don't know about that.
I'm 74. I'll admit. I don't give a shit.
You know, I'm a librarian, and I can find out how old you are and everything else.
Oh my gosh, I'm pretty sure. But I'm a seasoned player. You know, Kristi and I both are like, we've seen a few things from fucking 8-track tapes to the
Yes.
fucking MP4s and MP3s being downloaded. So
Fantastic.
I'll be able to. It'll make me laugh because I know that whenever I do watch movies from the 70s and 80s, there's just lots of stuff that I can kind of relate to. It's always kind of fun to watch this, you know, because in the 80s, those were the days when, you know, if you wanted to meet somebody, you actually had to physically meet them. You know what I mean? And, you know, those are like the old times. So it's kind of funny to watch, you know, in movies, the way that relationships were and all of these things. So I always find it entertaining because it kind of takes me back. Well, and also with it being 2018, watching a movie from 82 is always it's always, I don't want to say that it's a chore, but it's like one of those things where you're like, man, you know, I can't believe that we used to like those things, but that's all there was.
Hey, maybe it's a good movie too, but let me tell you why and how I got this idea. So my favorite show in the whole wide world is Three's Company. And last night there was a Three's Company marathon on TV and I watched it and I was like, surely there has to be a good horror movie from back then besides The Exorcist. So that piled with the podcasting stuff that I had been listening to. I was like, I kept hearing about The Entity. So that's how we've led us up to this moment. So, hey, I'm excited. We're going to have a good time. It's going to be the 80s before Moni was even fucking born.
Yeah.
So,
but I think we'll have fun, and I totally look forward to it. And to kind of you know, to close this thing out, I just want to make sure that everybody, you know, you can find our show on iTunes and Podbean, and you know, Kristi does a great job of kind of managing the social media. I definitely have to step my game up, but you know, on posting some things. But there, you know, everything that we talked about, we'll have links posted on the Facebook page, and we definitely like everybody who contributes on the page, and we also, you know, we want to know your story. So if you're someone who listens to our podcast and you have a paranormal story, or you have you know, anything cool to talk about it, hey, shoot us a message. You know what I'm saying? We'll try to vet you as the best way that we can. But if you have a great story and it's something that you kind of, you know, if you feel comfortable putting it out there, you know, it'll open up an opportunity for you to come on the show, because we definitely want all of the people who listen to be involved. And it's always cool to hear different stories of paranormal or just different crazy experiences that people have. And we're definitely willing to give people a chance to tell their stories. So that would be cool if anybody wants to shout us out like that.
and please do, because for our 10,000. For first of all, happy 30th episode. This is our 30th episode. I wish that 30th episode and 10,000th download paired together, but it's not meant to be. It's going to be our next episode or the one after. Well, no, it'll be the one after. So for that episode, for the 10,000 episode, I would like to have some personal stories. So yes, Yardley, thank you for bringing that up. Anybody, contact us, email us, message us on our social media, and reach out if you'd like to tell your story.
And and if you need to shoot that email, it's the Creepin' It Real Show at Gmail.
Yep, the Creepin' It Real Show at gmail.com.
Yeah, okay.
I have
well,
a scary listener story from someone I know personally that's going to make your balls put hair on your chest. How about that?
no, I don't want to hear what's happening to my balls. So go on, Trump lady.
I'm like, whoa, we went from balls to chest.
Yeah.
We can't talk about babies pooping. We can talk about some balls. Anyway, all right, everybody. Thanks for listening.
I must say you look nice tonight. Hope you're not alone, but if you are, I thought I might keep you company if you don't mind. I'm just trying to be more sociable and open up my mind to engage on these one-on-ones with a beautiful stranger. Not something I do, you be doing me a favor. Show me a few tips and not to come off like I'm thirsty. Just a down-to-earth person who always busy working, trying to make new friends, do new things. Don't mean that I'm out for one-night flames. Not saying that's a bad thing, just not on my agenda. If you're not busy, I won't mind trying to spend the rest of the evening getting to know you better. It's a little chilly out and I ain't bring out a sweater. I'm just